Steven, it's a new year, it's 2022, and I've got a big, fat, juicy wish that it's going to be a year full of fulfillment here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. What do you think?
I've got a big old sauce-drenched wish myself, just slapped on my plate here in front of me, and I'm going to dig in to a whole nother year of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
It's going to be a big year full of winding down our rewatch of Community and moving on to whatever comes next for us, and to be a part of it with us. There's so many ways to show your support.
We've got a big old warm pool here for you. Come on and slip on your skivvies and slide down the ladder and dive in. How can they get in this pool, Zach?
If you put your toe in the water and it feels fine and you want to get waist deep, come join us on Patreon, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. It's the way to support this show and to help us move it forward as we move into the future. It's also the way to get more of us every week with our live pre-show every week, You Can't Dis a Pre-Show, and all kinds of Patreon exclusive content coming all the time, Steven.
We'd love for you to support us on Patreon, but you can also hang out with us free of charge over on Twitter at You Can't Dis a Pod. We are also on Instagram at Can't Disappoint Podcast, and we're on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Also, if you would like to be a part of the show every week, you can email us at can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com. To be a part of next week's podcast, write us in your trivia, your favorite funny moment, and your episode MVP for next week's episode of Community, and we'll read it out loud on the show.
If you like what we do here, leave a review wherever you leave reviews about podcasts.
Yeah, maybe like the Sharper Image product review site. Leave us a review there.
There's like a box full of sticky notes at my post office. Write a review and leave it there.
I hope you guys are jumping on board with us and you're ready to traverse 2022 with me and Steven. What do you say? Let's rip our way into another episode of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast.
Cannonball!
I'll put like a big splat.
Yeah!
So what do you think? Easy, both of us straight to the bad place, no chance. What do you think? What are our odds?
Well, you're for sure going to the bad place, Zach. You're white.
The gay
it's
stuff?
predetermined.
Is it the gay stuff?
I mean, that helps.
You're saying all white people go to hell.
Yeah.
Well, if I go to heaven and it's all white people, it would be hell.
Mm-hmm.
Think I want to talk about taxes and the latest Adele album all eternity? No.
You know, if there were more shows like Frasier.
Hi, everybody out there. Welcome to a special edition of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast this week. I'm glad you've all joined us. It's great to be back for the second of 4 editions in America's Next Top Zach and Steven Rewatch podcast. I'm glad you've joined us.
This is the voice!
Yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do-do. So you think you can dance. That's the only one I know.
I was trying to think of like a tune that has the word American Idol in it, but it doesn't exist. That's not what their show was like. A wan 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 wan. It was like some weird thing, wasn't it?
Amanda.
Amanda, that's what it is. American Idol. Hi, everybody. I'm Zach, and you and I are on our way to Coolsville.
I'm Steven, and I didn't think of one, so I'm just going to do a Disco Janet dance.
Out of sight.
Out of sight.
No one will ever see it but me, but I really liked what I saw.
Yeah.
Well, let's start off the program. We're here to talk about the second option for our next rewatch podcast, The Good Place. And I am tremendously excited to discuss it.
I am too. This is a show that I feel like we got into it about the same time.
Well, hit a pause right before we get too deep into it, because I want to shout out still on this special edition of the podcast this week.
Yeah, me, I guess.
Sorry,
who cares
so
what I'm
flemmy.
excited about?
I agree.
Am I excited?
No. I'm way more excited about the people who give us a little of their hard-earned cash over whatever you're thinking about this 30 seconds. I want to shout out our $10 and up patrons over at patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. Danny M. Lugo, Mary Baker Budisa, Brian Thurman, Planeswalker Prez, and Brendan. Sorry, Brendan. Brendan Fulcomer. Big fans of all those people.
It's just they're all going to the good place.
Brendan Moore. Sorry.
This is how we lost Tim Tam.
This is, yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yep, we sure did.
Think Tim Tam went to the good
I
place?
hope you're still around.
No, Jeff
Tim Tam,
Annie shippers
absolutely.
go right to the bad place.
Because of the age thing.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody. Also, we've got a shout out, even though, it's a somber shout out because it's just an ever-present reminder that our days with communities as our community papa on a regular weekly basis are dwindling.
Yeah, he's moving from every other weekend to every other birthday, which is a much tougher deal for us, better deal for him.
By the time this podcast airs, it's about the end of August.
Wow.
We've only got 4 months left of being a weekly community rewatch podcast, and only 2 of those are spent watching the show. You know what I mean? We're really getting to the end of it, and we wouldn't have made it here. We wouldn't have even made it past the first 10 episodes probably had it not been for the support, the kisses, the late night love notes from our good old pal at Communities on Twitter. We're very thankful for all they've done for us.
Nothing tickles my toenails like seeing a letter slide under my door and smelling that musky musk that is the cologne worn by our esteemed padre.
Who is almost absolutely not listening to this podcast right now because it doesn't have anything to do with community.
So we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, we can say whatever we want. It's not for
the
kids.
supple shape
no
of
dads
his
allowed.
lips engraved in blue lipstick.
Honestly, this has been a pretty light daddy talk. We get way weirder on the ones where we know he's listening.
Yeah.
Well, Steven, how you doing? What you been up to? What's going on in the world of the dancer, the professional, the lover?
I am at least one of those things. Just getting back to working. I'm hoping to get back to working on my competitive dancing soon, which is, exciting. Performed for the first time in several months a couple weeks ago, so that was fun. Did a routine with Danny. Again, the routine tier in Patreon, you can get there too. Just shell out enough cash.
Yep.
Send us a DM. We'll tell you what the number is.
What do we have to do to get you to go try out for one of those dancey shows and to document all of it? You could do it seriously, but I would want comedic content out of it.
Sure. I mean, if So You Think You Can Dance comes to Chicago, I would go, I guess. I'm not good enough to win that show, but...
But if you found out they were coming to Chicago, would you be like, well, I might as well go do it?
Maybe.
Yeah. You got those dancing, tip-tapping toes.
I did. When I was in high school, I did see... Before I even knew how to, actually dance, I was, planning on auditioning when I turned 18.
For So You Think You Can Dance specifically?
Yeah.
I watched a lot of the singing competition shows growing up, so I definitely daydreamed a lot about when I was younger trying out for America's Got Talent.
Simon giving you that yes? Oh, why that one?
Well, because I was a kid, and you could be a kid on that show.
You can be 16 on American Idol.
Yeah, but I'm talking young.
Oh, you were like...
I was going to try out with Consider Yourself. Simon, consider yourself for the family. David Hasselhoff, just standing ovation. Remember when he was a judge?
Yeah.
Well, we're here to talk about The Good Place.
I would give you my golden buzzer.
You gold my buzzer all the time. We're here to talk about The Good Place. It's a very good show, and not many times in the last 10 years has a comedy show premiered, and from the very first episode, just been wow.
Yeah.
What is this show? Where are they going with this show? And that was at the beginning of the show, which went on to have so many crazy twists and turns that the beginning of it is almost irrelevant to the second half. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just a life-changing experience coming across this show for the first time. And it was an absolute treat to follow this show on air for the 4 seasons as it did its thing, because it was just full of surprises, full of laughs, a really, really phenomenal comedy show. I have a lot to say about it, but tell me a little bit about how you found it. Did I make you watch it?
I know we were like even with each other when the second season started. So I know we at least watched the first season together, but I don't think you had finished the first season when I started watching it.
That's not true. I watched the first season as it aired.
Well, then I probably fucking did too, Zach.
But that was when I was living in Muncie.
Yeah, and we were friends before then.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly. I don't think the first season we were watching it together.
I think that we had both
commenting on it weekly together.
It.
But I'm sure you were one of those people who I was like, there's this new show, it's incredible, you've got to check it out. Yeah. And that was back in the days where you would actually maybe listen to me and put it on.
Not these days.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched it either like I remember watching the finale, like I didn't have cable.
Season?
Yeah. And being like, holy shit. And I remember us talking about the second season as it was airing, because we were like, how can they keep this up?
Yeah.
The
second season especially is the season that I remember having constant weekly communication with you. Because I'll be honest, when the first season aired, the first episode, mind-blowing. Without knowing, and I want to say right here, The Good Place is a show with a shit ton of spoilers.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched The Good Place, we are going to keep it spoiler-free to a point, and we'll let you know when that point is.
You got about 5 more minutes, peeps.
No, longer than that, I think. We'll talk vaguely about how there is stuff that you find out or whatever. But we'll let you know when we're going to talk about the season 4 episode we're here to talk about a little bit later.
Can we make like a really loud like spoiler alert warning?
But
not
sure.
like added in after the fact. Like
you're going to do it live. Well, that makes me forget what my point is before I had the spoiler talk. When I was watching the first season as it aired, the first episode blew my mind, and then by midway through the season to the towards the end, because I was watching so much stuff and I didn't know what was to come for the show, I was kind of background watching it to the point where I background watched the first season finale, and the first time I watched it missed the twist.
Wow.
Because I wasn't really
That's not the most Zach Pruitt thing I've ever heard happen.
Because I
You're
wasn't
like, wait,
really...
so who's Eleanor?
I'm not that bad.
When's Dax Shepard going to be in?
It was just like one of those shows that I was actively doing something else while I was watching it. And then people reacted to the finale. And I was like, I didn't really notice anything. And then I, of course, went back and rewatched it and gave it my undivided attention. Because this isn't a show that you can just watch in the background. Which absolutely makes it a front runner for our next show. Because every single episode has so much to dive into.
Oh, yeah.
And every single episode has so much to do with what came before it. Can you think of any other sitcoms like this that...
They're this shocking? Like,
not shocking. I'm just thinking of the forward momentum storyline to where if you watched this episode that we're about to talk about a little bit later for the first time as your first episode of the show, you'd be really lost in a lot of the
I feel like this is one of those shows where you
stuff.
have to start from episode 1 in a good way.
And it aired on NBC. And it's wild because those networks at that time, or really at any time, were not committed to shows like that. For your sitcom, you want something that, for the most part, someone can tune into just about any episode and have a good time. It's so risky to put on your network this show that if you missed the first couple episodes or if you missed the first season finale, you're going to be lost the rest of the series.
Yeah, I can't think of too many other like mainstream sitcoms like this that were as like every episode moves the story forward. Not like... No, not really.
There are shows like Arrested Development that have so many in-jokes that you'll miss all the callbacks and won't know why it's funny. But this is one of the few 30-minute laugh-a-second sitcoms with people like Ted Danson in the cast that needs like a previously on in the beginning of each episode, or else like even watching this episode removed from my last rewatch of the show, there are a couple of things that I was a little fuzzy on just because it's been a while. I think you watched the last season more recently than
I watched it pretty recently, and so I was like, oh, great, I remember exactly what's going on now, which was nice. But I really enjoy getting to watch this episode again. Because the last season of the show is still fantastic.
It almost made me realize, again, by the end of the show, I was actively watching it, but I think my expectations were so high that now I go back and watch an episode like this and think, why was I kind of... glass half full on some of these episodes the first time? It's phenomenal.
Half empty?
Well, I like to say glass half full because it's
that
still
means
kind
something
of optimistic.
different, though.
Yeah, It means it's like half full of like good stuff, but it's not all the way there. If it's half empty, you're more focused on the stuff that's not there. But if it's half full, you're a little more focused on what's in your cup. And I'm always a little more
I don't know,
focused
Zach.
on
When I'm
what's in
half
my
empty
cup.
with you, I'm still pretty focused on what you got going on in my cup.
So, what are some things that you like about the show? Who are some of your favorite characters? The tone of the show? What stands out from it to you?
You know, I think for me, I love Chidi. I love Michael. Janet might be my favorite character. I like Jason a lot of the time too. I mean, I like all the main cast.
Yeah, it's got a great main cast.
But I think Chidi and Janet are normally my like go-to faves.
Well, my favorite thing about the show, especially in its later seasons, I was always way more invested in the world of the show and the rules and the lore of the show than really the main characters. So that's what I really love about the show, just the fully thought out world that is both really out there and also feels pretty in line with what I think a lot of people believe to be true in morality and in the way that should be awarded in the afterlife. I mean, it makes it look really silly, but all of the truth at the heart of what they're saying in this show rings really true all the time.
Yeah.
I think,
you know, even from the beginning of the show, as much as the scope of what was happening in the show evolves and grows and changes and you know, the stakes get higher and lower depending on which episode you're on. They still,
I would say almost never, once it gets going, the stakes get lower.
Well, they get seemingly lower.
Sure, but it's one of those great shows that for however many episodes, the stakes just get higher and higher and higher. And like Breaking Bad levels of bringing up the ante, but still being a light half-hour NBC sitcom starring Ted Danson.
Yeah, right? But I think no matter what's happening in the show, they hold true to the same values and the same like messages that they're sending. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, The Good Place both makes me think about death and my death and what's going to come after being alive. And it makes me feel anxious and also comforted weirdly in the same time. It's a really special show. The people that created it have done all kinds of great work. I didn't look. It's Mike Schur, I'm pretty sure. And he's one of the people.
You're pretty sure?
I'm pretty sure it's Mike Schur. And he's one of the guys from The Office. And
oh, wow.
That makes a lot of sense. It's just such an ambitious concept of a show that you need a name in the industry, like someone attached to one of the most popular shows of all time in this era, to be able to trust that a show like that can be marketable. It's such a daring, ambitious idea, and that they made it, that they got it on the air, that it was as good as the concept is, and that it stayed that good from beginning to end is a true feat. Before we move into the episode and maybe a little bit the spoilers that we're going to talk about today, I think we should just touch on a little bit about what we think the Good Place Zach and Steven podcast would be like, why it's a show that we think would be fun to talk about every episode in a in-depth way like we do here with Community. What are you thinking?
Well, one thing that excites me about this idea, Zach, is that you and I both have very different perspective and scope and experiences with religion and faith and mythology and things like that, and
to the point where we've butted heads over it.
Yeah, we've had some like real like
not fights, but we've butted heads over it.
Yeah, we've had some good discussions, I think, over the course of our friendship, just because we both have different perspectives on things and different feelings about organized religion and faith and the difference between them, you know. But I think that already has spurred some really cool conversations in a show that centers around what happens after you die, and how your actions on Earth influence that. It would, I think, come up with some really cool things. I know you and I also have very different viewpoints on like some things that are right versus wrong and the gray areas, and I think that'd be some really cool stuff to get into and hear.
I'm interested what you mean by that, right versus wrong, gray area.
I don't know. We've had some discussions before about like when stuff is okay versus not, like.
I'm just curious. I'm not coming at you. I'm asking.
No, the one that I remember is I think we were having a conversation one time. I'm like, is it okay to like, do you think you could kill someone if X was happening?
I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
And what? We disagreed?
Well, we had different answers.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I sorry to derail it. I was just curious what you were talking about.
That's
I think
like
you're
one I
right.
remember.
I think we would have a lot of great conversations because I think we both agree with most of the ideas about what's good and bad that The Good Place puts forward. I'm not saying that we agree on everything outside of that. However, I think The Good Place smartly, even though it's so about the afterlife, it has very little to do with religion and very little to do with faith, and almost smartly doesn't ever bring up any idea of like the boss or of like of God or whatever.
Because every time they're like, oh, so this person's like God, they're like, no.
But of course, with us being people who grew up in the church and the amount that has influenced where we are now and how much it interacts with our current life is very different, even though we come from quote unquote similar in some way backgrounds. I don't know. I think we could have a lot of really fun conversations.
Yeah.
And a good laugh or two along the way.
Oh, totally. This show's hilarious, and I think answers a lot of questions in a funny way, and I think that ethics is fun to look at sometimes.
Or doesn't even always answer the question, but just brings up the question and makes you think about some huge unanswerable ideas that don't often get brought up on network TV.
Yeah, I think that this show also has so many, like, all the main characters are very different for a lot of reasons, but also have similarities between each other, and I think it'd be fun
very
to look
strategically different from each other.
And I love it. I think the show is just really, really smart, but not in an obnoxious way where it's like, I'm a smart show and I'm showing, not telling, but it like just is really clever. And I think
if anything,
that's
it hates on people who are like that just as much as it hates on like the full out bad people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has a disdain for being like, I'm better than you because of this, I think.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think there's just so much. The show is so much fun, but still has a lot of heart behind it constantly, and in surprising ways sometimes.
Yeah.
I think this also has a show where the characters grow in different ways and different amounts, but I think...
And that's a lot to say for... I don't think it's a spoiler to say a show where it starts with the characters being dead.
Yeah.
And they grow and change in unexpected ways, in really satisfying ways, while always staying true to themselves. In fact, we'll talk in a little bit here about this particular episode. I think it really highlights how a character like Chidi really changes for the better over the course of the show to really turn into a hero. A really great show. I would be really excited to talk about it episode by episode, to have those conversations and talk about those questions and relate our experience or lack thereof to these ideas of what happens when we die, why does it all happen, and how much does it matter while we're alive, all of that stuff. I think it'd be really fun to talk about some stuff like that.
I think so too.
Well, do you want to move into the episode though?
Let's do it.
Should we tell people at this point? Well, shortly we'll do trivia and you recapping the episode.
Yeah.
So we should probably tell people at this point, we're going to be talking about a late run episode of the show. So if you're concerned about spoilers.
Almost the last one.
There's like 4 episodes after this.
Yeah, that's almost.
I thought this was a good one to choose from that last stretch of episodes because it's not the last episode, but it sets a lot of that stuff in motion.
Yeah.
I'm pretty glad that we are talking about this episode.
I'm glad this one too. I think one of the ones that I suggested was like right next to this one.
Oh yeah?
Somewhere around there. And so I think this is like this. I'm glad that it was this episode too. If it was going to be a late season one, I'm glad that it was this.
Yeah. So, if you haven't watched The Good Place, if you're worried about spoilers, and you should be, and you should watch The Good Place, check out here, go watch a couple episodes, and decide in the future if you want to throw your vote towards The Good Place for our next show. But in the meantime, for those of you that are still here, let's talk about The Good Place. Oh, God, I forgot.
Because the warnings always go off like right.
That's our
after
special celebrity guest for the week, Fran Drescher. Thanks for joining the show.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Spoilers ahead. Yeah, just when you think it's done, there's a couple more.
If you haven't seen The Good Place, pause this video right now. Go watch it, then come back. And leave a like in the meantime.
We mean it. Not kidding. Do it.
All right. We warned ya. Here it comes.
Spoilers. We're talking about The Good Place, Season 4, Episode 10. This episode is called You've Changed, Man. I watched the episode twice to talk about it today, and it took me the second time to catch the line, You've Changed, Man, in the episode.
Mm.
Do you remember it? Do you know where it comes up in the episode? Do you really, though? I just want to be reassured that when I miss things, it's okay.
Because Jason was like talking to Sean. Like,
you've changed,
cool.
man.
You've changed, man.
The episode was directed by Rebecca Asher. She directed 3 episodes of The Good Place, and I wrote down some of her other interesting credits that I found. She did 15 episodes of Grace and Frankie.
Oh, wow. I haven't watched that show.
I haven't either, but I know a lot of people like it and talk about it, and it was kind of buzzy for a while. She did 5 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Nice.
She did 13 episodes of Raising Hope. Did you ever watch
Raising Hope? I love
Hope?
Raising Hope. I enjoyed that show quite a bit.
And she directed 1 episode of the original run of Arrested Development.
Wow.
And it was written by a Community connection, a guy who wrote 2 episodes of Community. His name's Matt Murray, and he wrote 3 episodes of The Good Place, but I signaled out the 2 episodes of Community he wrote, Advanced Gay, and Virtual Systems Analysis, which is the
both
Dreamatorium episode, I'm pretty sure. And this episode originally aired January 9th, 2020, which made me think that The Good Place ended just a few weeks before the pandemic.
That's crazy.
Do you think it's because we lost The Good Place that everything got thrown into the bad place?
Because I didn't watch the 4th season until recently.
Yeah.
Because I think I was watching them all, but then I didn't have a Hulu subscription that didn't have ads, and I don't do ads. And
I don't really do the whole ads thing.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. So I didn't watch the 4th season.
Just out of spite for ads.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you watched it because I feel like the 3rd season was really great, but kind of a downward momentum from the 2nd season a little bit. And then the 4th season really brought it back to for a show that's so unexpecting. It had kind of that suspected ending, but in a way that you didn't 100% expect, and with some really satisfying emotional
until the second half of the 4th season, or really until the last few episodes, I didn't expect how it would end really at all.
Well, I need to watch it again. It's been a while. I just mean, maybe not how the show exactly ends, but stuff like how in this episode we're beginning to see the plan for the next afterlife and stuff like that. I kind of saw how that was going to work its way out as the show ran its course, and it did, but it was still satisfying, and it still had its surprises. Let's do some trivia.
Let's do it. I have some questions for you, Zachary.
That's what you're supposed to have, so I'm glad you did it. I've got 6.
Whoa!
Same.
Twinsies.
Why don't you go first?
Okay. What season of Justified is the judge on?
That's my first question. It's season 2, and she binged
You're
it in about
incorrect.
A day. No, it's season 2. I'm positive.
She's on season 3. She binged season 2 in a day.
Wasn't that the question? Slut. What season did she binge?
I said, what season of Justified is the judge on? If you would let me finish the questions.
I was just excited.
Before answering, Mr. Connery.
What?
It's
Celebrity
Daryl
Jeopardy. Hammond's impression of Sean Connery.
Damn you, Trebek.
Yeah, because my question was, what season of television did the judge binge in one day?
Well, those are different questions.
Yep. Why don't you go ahead? Give me another one. We'll call that one a draw. I don't like when we're mad at each other like this.
What are Neutral Janet's last words?
Neutral Janet's? That's the very first one. Mm-hmm. Is she just okay?
You want to try again?
No, I don't really know this
Any questions? These are my last words. End of words.
Oh, yeah. That was a funny bit. Who did Tahani once see in Portofino?
Bruno Mars, LeBron James, and who can
LeBron James.
And then the white lady whose last name starts with a W. Ruth Wychester.
That's really close. I'll give it to you. Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
Westheimer.
It was close enough.
Who is she? I don't know her.
No idea. There's a Dr. Ruth who was a radio personality.
Oh, the sex one.
I don't. Dr. Ruth wasn't the sex one, or maybe she was. She was. There was also Dr. Laura, who was a conservative talk radio lady that my mom listened to all the time. But Dr. Ruth is the sex one. I don't think it's the same Ruth, and I don't think it's Dr. Laura either. Your turn.
What is a Jacksonville plea bargain?
Ooh. I don't remember.
Sleeping with the judge to get out of trouble.
Nice. What year did Judith Sklar die?
Ooh, I almost thought I'd ask him this one. Was it 1928?
Chidi. That might have been when she was born. She died in 1992.
Ooh, I was wrong.
Yes.
What is on Sean's lapel pin?
Oh my god, I have no idea.
It's
Not a clue.
It's a gold thumbs down.
I did think that this is going to be a great show for trivia.
Oh my god, yeah. There's
so much detail. What movie is on the billboard in Bad Janet's Void?
Pirates of the Caribbean 12. I don't remember the tagline.
It was too small for me to be able to make it out on my 260p screen. But Pirates of the Caribbean 12 was what was important.
Zach watches it on like a McDonald's toy that you could hook up to.
It's one of those things that usually plays video games outside the play place. It's one of those screens. I just hook up my HDMI to it. I can watch whatever they want. They don't give a
Yeah, they don't give a what song is playing in Disco Janet's Void?
That was one of my favorite funny moments. I am a gummy bear. Yes, I am.
That's
Disco Janet.
Disco Janet.
That's Bad Janet. Mm-hmm. Disco Janet. I don't actually know the song, but the judge continues to sing it when she's like, "Erase the earth."
If you can sing it with the right words, I'll give it to you.
Earth. I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know it.
Ring my bell. Ring my bell.
Yeah, I didn't know the song.
That's a jam. You would like disco. You like ABBA.
I like disco. Why are you putting that as if I've never been put as if
Zach, you should give disco a try.
For the first time about disco.
Zach, there's this really cool thing swept the nation in the mid to late 70s.
One of my favorite bands has several disco albums.
Who?
Sparks.
Oh, nice. I heard about Sparks mentioned in a video.
Cool.
Someone was talking about like popular music, but it not always having to be what's popular. Like you can have like
pop music isn't necessarily popular music.
Yeah, not anymore.
Sure.
What did Jason fall into the swamp trying to do?
Well, if it is what I think it is, it'll be giving away one of my questions, but it might not be what I thought it was.
Well, what do you think it is?
But then it'll give away one of my questions.
Well, tell me your question and I'll tell you if it's the same thing.
What did Jason try to spray paint on a snapping turtle?
Oh, that is the same.
That's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't? Well, you tell me, and then we'll
He's
see
trying
who
to
really
spray paint the
knows.
Taco Bell.
Was that
logo.
the answer? Is that why he fell into the swamp? Mm-hmm. See, because I thought that was the answer, but I knew maybe it wouldn't be, and I didn't want to botch my question.
Believe in yourself.
Whose turn is it then? I just have one more question.
It's you. I'm done.
Oh, okay. When Sean is just smashing stuff, what kiosk is he smashing stuff from?
It was one of my favorite funny moments. Joni loves tchotchkes.
Nice.
That was good.
Good job. Well, then let's go ahead and transition right into, because we're not doing a rewatch of The Good Place right now. People don't know what episode we're talking about until when this episode drops.
Yeah.
I don't really expect people to have watched this episode to listen to this podcast. So this next segment is very important.
Yeah.
Because, Steven, you've got 20 seconds on the calculator.
I knew I was going to have to do this, but didn't until this very moment contemplate the difficulty of what I have to do. Because this is like, The Good Place is jam-packed anyway, every episode.
And it's one of the last episodes of the show.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of the
in a pretty major, like, oh, Jesus. All right. I got to do Timothy Oliphant proud. I would say Oliphant in my head.
You didn't even let me introduce the segment.
I know.
Did Steven watch the episode of the show that we're watching this week?
Did Steven watch the episode of the show that we're watching this week?
You got 20 seconds on the calculator. Are you ready?
That's a callback, Zach.
You don't have to tell me that. Why are you telling me that?
That's a callback. You called back to something from earlier.
Are you ready?
I guess.
Okay, let's see where this goes. 3, 2, 1, go.
Chidi's confident now because he saw the time knife. He loves Eleanor. They're going through all the Janets. The judge and Janet try and find where the button to erase all of humanity is, but they have to come up with a solution that the Good Place and Bad Place agree on. They finally come up with one after a couple failed attempts, and it's to have everyone go to the Bad Place or be judged, and then everyone can go to the Good Place. They don't go to the Bad Place, go to a neighborhood that's created by a...
Stop. That was funny. They go to the Bad Place. Well, no, they don't go to the Bad Place.
Isn't every place really the bad place if you think about it, Zach?
Yes, that wasn't good, but that's hard.
Yeah.
If you're the one doing the segment and this is the show that we do, there are going to be episodes that are extremely tough for you, which I think will be pretty fun.
Yeah.
But for that was like a C-.
I'll take it. That gets
like
me
a
to the medium
C-.
place where I can drink lukewarm beer with.
That's bad place. C+. We're talking medium place.
Somebody's
You think a
home
C-
had a tough rating.
gets you into the medium place? You
Well,
piece
it's
of
average.
trash.
It's lower
I
tier
wrote down some
average.
favorite funny moments. Did you write down some favorite funny moments?
I did write down some favorite funny moments.
Well, let's go through them. My first one I wrote when Jason gave the idea that it would be a bummer if humanity is destroyed, and he's talking to Michael, and he's like, "Are you gonna at least write it down?" Then Michael like scribbles, and like, "Well, did you really write it down, or did you just do a scribble scrabble?"
Do a scribble scrabble was my first one too. I like when, because I think the judge being into Chidi is hilarious anyway. But when she's like, "Everyone except for you, Cookie Puss,"
Puss.
Mama always has room.
That was
for
almost
you.
a trivia question. That's funny.
That was good.
Man, it's a shame that we never got to on Community, because Maya Rudolph would have been great in a moment on Community. Singing Maya Rudolph, man.
Yeah.
What can't she do?
She's great.
She's so funny, and she's so talented, and she's so beautiful.
Her and
I
Grown
love
Ups.
Maya Rudolph.
Pregnant?
Do you know that she's, I don't know if they ever got married, but she's in a relationship with Paul Thomas Anderson, the film director.
I rock
They
with
have
that.
children together. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul F. Tompkins from BoJack
yeah.
Horseman and Best
Yep.
Week Ever. Love him.
Punch Drunk Love, Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
The next thing I wrote down the Gummy Bear song playing in Janet's voice. That's
great.
just straight out of my awful childhood.
I got so into watching it that I kept forgetting to write down funny moments. But I thought that the Joni Loves Tchotchkes was so fucking funny. Very like Bob's Burgers-esque almost with the
Sure.
pun.
There's a ton of that in Good Place with the
all the
neighborhoods.
yogurt shops and
The stores are always changing.
yeah.
I liked at one point I forget who he's talking to, but Chidi like comes in hot and he's like, shut up, hi, shut up, I'm confident now.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm confident now.
When finally Disco Janet is great, all in all, just a side. But when they do go into Janet's void to like convince the judge of their new plan, and Timothy Olyphant is continuously like poking holes in it, and she's like, "Whose side are you on?" He's like, "I don't have a dog in this fight, little lady. I'm just here for clarity." Like that was so
The
funny.
Timothy Olyphant cameo is perfect.
Yeah,
They use
incredible.
him the perfect amount, and he's just there for the ride, and he's
Yeah.
true chaotic neutral.
It's great.
What do I have next? I really liked The Good Place, or the neighborhood tenants just agreeing kind of blindly to whatever they were doing. I don't remember the exact line, but when they're talking about the new idea for the afterlife and it's just awful, and they're like, "Yeah, well, that's pretty good. I think we should just do that."
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
We
Paul
should just
Scheer?
keep going till this demon is happy.
Yeah.
At the end of the episode, when Jason like throws the button between his legs, and there's a moment where like Tahani looks at Eleanor like, "Oh my f***ing god," it's so good.
What are we doing to their penises? Well, largely ignoring them.
The way he throws his hands up, like, "Come on." Yeah, I think those were the ones I had. Do you have any more?
I do have one more. I just thought the visual of Timothy Olyphant disappearing and becoming a series of cubes was really just a funny visual as he snapped away.
Yeah, that was great.
Let's dive into this episode. I
do it.
thought it was really fun, really funny, and not having watched The Good Place in a while, it reminded me of all the fun, kooky details that this show is packed with, and why it's such a special show. From like the very beginning, when it's the judge turning different Janets into marbles, I was like, oh yeah, there's a whole thing about Janets being turned into marbles when they're put out of commission. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, I love that. From the very beginning, like you said, like you're instantly thrown in, and we haven't watched the show. I mean, I've watched it more recently than you, but being thrown back in, you're like, oh my god, I remember now the stakes of what's happening. They're trying to figure out how to keep humanity from being erased entirely.
For the last time, too.
Yeah.
They've been juggling this for a while, but it's the last time. The judge is going to press the button to erase humanity. The stakes are all
They could
stakes.
not be bigger, yeah.
Yeah. They even later in the episode, Sean and Michael are mentioning like, well, I'll see you in 100 billion years when the humans happen again, when they come back to this point. I don't know. It's just really intense, really, really huge stakes, and I love watching that. This episode for being one of the last episodes of the show, does a really good, smart job of being intense and moving the plot forward, but also really featuring the whole cast really well. All of the main characters get their little moments, and all of the side characters that we like the most, for the most part, get their little moments. I thought it was a really well stuffed episode with what you want to see when a show only has a few episodes left.
Yeah. I really love also how I immediately was reminded of, and we haven't talked about this in a long time, not since season 2 probably was airing. Chidi and Eleanor were instantly thrown back into the fact that, they sacrificed their relationship to have this last experiment they were doing succeed. And Chidi finally is back and he remembers everything. And the first thing he says to Eleanor is he's like, I love you. Like, I know that through all the lives that I've lived and all the time that I've spent in these different scenarios, like, I love you. And I think that's incredible. And, the fact that he's so sure about it, and we're instantly reminded how, hilarious they are together when she's like, oh, that's really kind of hot. Should we get out of here? And it's like, wait,
yeah.
no,
we can't do that. We're saving the universe.
Because no matter how much Eleanor grows, she's still that, Arizona, whatever she refers to herself as. But it's so good.
That was one of the things I was a little bit fuzzy on, just revisiting this episode, was where exactly in that, like, what had just happened to Chidi. Yeah. But I thought there was some interesting stuff in here. It shows a lot in this episode, with Chidi not really being one of the main focal points of the episode, I guess, because it's just all over the place. Yeah. I guess I would say the main stuff of this episode is, like, the Judge and Janet, and then Michael. And Sean, and then, like, the group brainstorming. Yeah. But it reminded me of just how far Chidi's come, that he can say so assuredly to Eleanor that he loves her when he wouldn't have been able to say anything that assuredly. I really like the side of Chidi. I like confident Chidi, and it's the Chidi that he's always had the tools that he's needed to be the guy that puts all the pieces together for everyone. Yeah. But now that his anxieties are out of the way, that he's found his peace with them, he can be a superhero.
Yeah, he's a freaking rock star.
And I love it. Michael, who's literally this, as far as we know, like all-knowing entity. Like, Chidi's the guy that we all look to. Like, how are we going to get out of this one?
Yeah. There's a really funny moment where he's like, Chidi's like, I've seen all these things. And he's like, you saw the time knife? He's like, I saw the time knife.
And then the moment after that, he's like, it was pretty cool. And then Michael was like, you that's all? I don't know. It was a cool little moment for something that, I don't know, it's not very often people throw around the phrase time knife.
Well, and, like, Chidi, somebody whose brain would get broken trying to pick what shoes to wear that day, to see this, like, omnipotent item that controls all of time and space.
And he's like, I get it.
Yeah, it's like, cool. It's so cool. I loved getting to just see Jason be Jason. He's such a
It was hard not to
character.
Just write everything he said down as my favorite funny moment. He's so funny. Manny Jacinto, I'm not sure how to say his last name. That's the actor that plays him. His comedic timing and his character voice for Jason is just perfect.
I follow him on Instagram. He's so handsome.
He's very attractive. I mean, he always was.
The whole cast is. Chidi is
Chidi's the one that's, like, surprisingly hot.
Yeah, when you see him,
there's an episode
like,
in I think the last season probably, where he's shirtless, and it's like, oh,
you're like, oh, Chidi's jacked,
ripped.
Yeah.
What else stood out to you in this episode? A couple things for me were how some of the side characters that are featured in this episode, how f***ing good Mark Evan Jackson is as Sean. From, like, the lift of his eyebrow, or just, like, the kirk of his mouth. I don't know. It just, he is so in control and so in the body of this essence of evil character. Yeah. And then in this episode that asks him to, like, change his mind a little bit, he plays that really well. You see the turn in that character without it feeling like, Mama, I'm coming home. I'm a good guy now.
He's
it
like,
makes sense.
Okay.
That because without this new plan, he doesn't get to have the fun of playing this game of chess with Michael anymore. Yeah. And he ends up siding with their idea just so they can continue to be adversaries, which I think is really special.
I think it's so sweet. That whole scene with Michael where he's, trying to trick Sean into it. He's like, yeah, no more, I'll see you in a billion years. It's been fun, but there's no real point. And Sean's like, I don't like this. This isn't what I wanted. He's like, like you can tell in his brain, he's like trying to like process. He's like, this isn't what I thought it should be. I want this to be fun. It's kind of a beautiful, funny line when he's like, you put a needle through their first eyeball and you're like, I'm getting paid to do this. And by the thousandth one, you're like, I should have just become a teacher. And I thought that line was hilarious.
That is really, really funny. So true for something so silly. All of the silly torture methods that they talk about in the show are so funny.
Whose throats are they going to be pouring lava into?
I've got to mention, because we were talking about Michael a little bit. Michael he's probably one of the lesser focused on characters in this episode. But Ted Danson, for being such an iconic performer already, I just love the character of Michael so much. I think Michael and Janet embody specifically what makes this show so special and different and unique. It's that somehow I have trouble seeing, for whatever reason, older Ted Danson like getting these scripts and being like, so what are we doing this time? Where you know what I mean? But somehow he just embodies something in the skin of a human.
Yeah, there's
so
like a sense
perfectly.
of like childlike wonder in every single line he delivers, where he's like, this is the first time I'm doing this.
Or like a sense that like parts of his body are gonna like twitch because there's something in there that's not supposed to be in there.
We issued our spoiler
so
a long time ago, but every time that Michael is evil, he like when he switches to his like sinister voice, it's so good. You're like, oh shit, I forgot Ted Danson's an incredible actor. I totally forgot.
That moment in the end of the first season where we realize it's been the bad place all along.
Yeah.
Which it's so crazy to think about the show as a whole now and how earth-shattering of a reveal that was in the first season. The concept of the whole show is it's the good place and Eleanor's not supposed to be there. And that's like the sitcom. That's a perfect sitcom setup. They could have done 6 seasons of them in heaven and Eleanor trying to be
secretive
unnoticed.
about it.
That's why I'm saying this show is so daring, because you don't even really know what the show is
threw
until
the
the last
entire
episode
plot,
of the first
like,
season.
Surprise! This is not the show at all.
And then in the second season, they do that every episode. It's
and
not
it
the show.
Stayed
it's not the show.
Entertaining.
And it stayed the voice of that show, even with like pressing the garage door clicker to destroy the universe of the show at the end of any given episode.
Like, I remember us talking like between each episode in season 2, we're like, they can't keep this up. We're like, how did they keep this up? Like, it was just kept like banger after banger after banger, and you're like, this is amazing.
What a special show. I would be very excited to talk about this show on a weekly basis and to dive it in like this. What else stood out to you in this episode? Thinking back to how the show ends and how this sets up a lot of those things. I saw little hints of Chidi's eventual fate of being resigned when it comes to walking through the doorway in the last episode, when he's beyond ready for that before anyone else was. You can kind of see the beginning of that here, I think. Now that he's got his shit figured out, his story's completed, but he's still there. I thought that was an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the end of the show for a little bit, I cried like the whole last episode, but I think it's so beautiful to see somebody who from episode 1 has been filled with nothing but anxiety and stress and a sense of like not completion, to see him like be content is such like a rewarding payoff that I didn't know I needed. Like, I was like, okay, Chidi's stressed, he's gonna be with Eleanor, he's smart, he's quirky, but like, I'm like, wow, I'm really happy that Chidi is just like okay. Like, that's like such a sense of peace that he never got to have throughout his entire life, and seeing him just getting to that point here is really cool.
I think there's a lot with the Chidi character that could be analyzed to think about how, even though these characters start dead, to think of like Chidi as this really anxious guy, and then death, although scary and you spend so much of your life in fear of it, is like the true final ultimate giving up of all of those anxieties, and just like how they say in The Good Place, to kind of become one of the waves in the ocean. But I think there's a great comforting message to get out of the Chidi character, that no matter what, when the end comes, there will be a sense of solace, of what is. I know something that we like to say a lot, and that it's a comfort to let go of everything, like at the end of it, I think is really powerful, and they use the Chidi character to show that really well.
Yeah. I also want to talk about how much I love Janet. I think our like main Janet has gone through so much like growth and transformation. But seeing how like she goes these great lengths to like take the judge through all these things and like hide that, like that's like
it's
such
a great Janet episode.
Yeah.
We get to see so many different versions of Janet for just a second.
Which Darcy Carden is such a fucking star. I love her and everything she's in.
She's so great because Janet has to be so many things while always being the same exact thing, and she plays that part so well. She's such a great embodiment of Siri or whatever.
Yeah,
is what she
the not a
starts
girl
off as.
joke will always be will land for me every single time.
But by the end of it, I even lose track of like, well, what is she by the end of it? She's not what she's not what the rest of the Janets are anymore.
No.
What she say? She's like, I can put 4 people in my void, and they can change, and I can change, and that's weird. Yeah,
it's great. I think we talked about Maya Rudolph as a judge.
What an interesting character.
I think so. Eleanor kind of takes a bit of a more backseat this episode, which Eleanor kind of does as the show progresses a little bit. But Kristen Bell does such a great job of like, she's kind of the engine that's moving, the whole time. She's, steering the wheel, but not really steering the wheel.
She can keep the coal going in the engine and keep everything moving, but she doesn't really have an idea of like where they're going or what they're gonna do. When
she's
they
like
get
on
there.
the like,
She's
bottom of the
motivator.
Titanic, just throwing, But she does a great job. I think Tahani's the character that has a lot of growth as well, and she's kind of I kind of forget about Tahani sometimes in terms of
while
like,
in a similar way, Tahani grows a lot while still like Eleanor being Tahani. She's still gonna name drop and then need to be reminded why what she's doing or saying is coming off as passive aggressive.
I do think it's funny that she keeps like, and
thing.
I'll let you know how to torture right now. I can't pull off a mod look. It's just can't do it.
And then in the end when they're talking about what each of them brought to the neighborhood that helped them grow, when she's like, and I cannot pull off the mod look. She's like, well, okay, I know there's other things wrong with me, but that's clearly the main one.
So good.
What do you want to talk about this episode? Anything else you want to mention before we get a little bit existential and name some victors at the end of this week's foray into the good place? I'd like to talk about Timothy Olyphant a little bit.
Yeah, he's handsome.
He is very handsome, and he's a really fun guy. What I know about him is less what I've seen him in and more him interacting with Conan O'Brien. His episodes of Conan O'Brien's podcast are so funny.
I think I heard the first one.
He'll just like interrupt Conan and start like doing his own ad for something, and I don't know. He just has a really funny like kind of a Burt Reynolds-ian.
Yeah, that's a great
do
comparison.
And say whatever I want, and it's funny, and I'm the coolest, hottest guy in the room. I don't know. He's a really cool dude.
My first thing I remember him from is Danny Cordray on The Office. And
oh, sure.
And
I almost even forget that he was on The Office.
Yeah, and I think that character is so funny because he's so freaking charming.
Yeah.
Like, anytime he's anywhere. Like, I want to watch Justified just to see Timothy Olyphant.
What was that show? He was on that show on Netflix with Drew Barrymore.
Oh, the Santa Clara Diet. Yeah.
I watched the first season. It was pretty good.
Was it good? I heard good things.
I'd like
to
watch more. It was cute.
She was a zombie,
one of those
right?
like off the wall comedies. Yeah, she was a zombie.
Nice. That's hot.
I really like Timothy Olyphant showing up in this episode, and I even like the credit in the end of the episode. It said Timothy Olyphant as, in quotations, Timothy Olyphant.
That's really funny.
Not really playing himself.
No, he's playing the
playing
Janet
like
version.
the image of himself, like the Google image copy paste version of him that will literally just get the judge to listen for a while. And he's such a great, I don't know, like there's the moment when he's like, and who's gonna give the test?
Yeah.
Donnie's like, well, some of this stuff we've already got figured out. Some of this isn't worth asking. Or him being like, I don't have an idea, or I don't have a horse in this race. I like the penis sound and stuff. I think is really funny, and I almost believe that Timothy Olyphant showed up and just started saying stuff. I know that it was scripted, but he pulls off that
it's very
I just
natural.
moseyed my way in. Okay, so here in just a second, we're going to end the episode by, as on Community, we always like to give an MVP. I think that'll be different if we do The Good Place. Maybe this was Steven's idea, but I think we would talk about at the end of each episode, based off of that episode, who most earned their spot in the good place and who most earned their spot in the bad place. But before we do that, do you think there's a hell?
Yeah.
You think that there's a hell? Mm-hmm. Because there are a lot of Christians that don't believe in hell anymore.
Yeah.
You think for sure there's a hell. You think for sure that there are bad period people and they get punished.
Yeah.
Do you think that someone goes to hell because they're not a Christian?
Not inherently, no. Not at all.
Do you think do you think that what the good place poses is a good idea?
Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you not think?
I think if you had a score that was like really low, like you were a diddler or something, like then I have a little harder time saying, yeah,
give him a couple shots.
Give him a couple. Yeah, let him try again. Maybe
they didn't change the 20th.
There's only
time.
grown-ups there. That I see some issue with personally, but that's my own, staunch feelings on that,
on kid diddling.
Yeah, on kid
no
diddling.
Can't diddle kids.
Do not diddle kids. Cannot diddle kids.
No fun diddling kids. Because what I think is problematic with hell is not so much the idea that good can be rewarded and bad can be punished in the end. The problem more lies with, well, who and what decides what that is. There are easy things to say that are bad, and if people are unashamedly that they should be punished. Not to say that someone who, we've both established, I agree with you that like diddling kids is about as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
And I can have sympathy for the mental health of people who are afflicted with those thoughts.
Sure.
And then have zero sympathy when they make it physical in any way whatsoever.
Bingo.
But that's when it comes to the afterlife, who and what makes that line? Like, if the idea is not believing
Magic
in religion,
8 ball, shake it up.
Yeah,
this one good or bad?
If it's like not believing in religion equals bad, go to hell, that doesn't make any sense. It is like the good place where it seems like nobody is going to clear that bar. But at the same time, and I don't know if this is just our own human, like, wanting vindication when stuff is bad, but it also isn't satisfying to think that everybody just gets to hang out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know what happens afterwards, but
you don't. I was hoping you would know.
I've been dead several times, Zach. Death is only the beginning.
I know that it's no fun, but I do really kind of think dead gone. I think there are, what?
It sounds like there's fucking aliens outside flying by. Or a swarm of locusts.
They're onto us. They're
oh shit, the FBI burst through. Ah!
I'm a pretty firm believer that when I die, I'm going to fall asleep and I'm probably not going to be conscious. And if there is some continuation of my energy or something, Zach Pruitt, the conscious being, isn't going to be like aware or...
You got no soul!
I got no soul. Because when I think about I feel like there's no way for there to be a heaven and hell, and not for there to be so many people that should not be in hell, and so many people that should not be in heaven. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I kind of like the idea they have in the good place. I mean, I think that maybe you just like start over on Earth until you get it right. That'd be kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, but
I like to follow the beliefs of Kirk Cameron's Left Behind.
Kirk Cameron did not write Left Behind. He directed the shitty movie.
I like to think in terms of author / screenplay writer / director / sound manager Kirk Cameron's Left Behind.
I do like the idea that it is not too late to let go of what's holding you back as a good person until the clock runs out, right?
Well, and I even like to, in my happy image in my head, I like to even think that that's not too late. Like, maybe after you die, you go and you're like, hey, listen, last chance. water this flower and you're in, you know.
And someone's like, "F that flower."
That
like,
flower.
All right, guy, we really tried. We really tried. Portals.
Portals straight to hell. Well, unless you're from Florida,
it's
then
interesting
you just go.
because I am so diametrically opposed to the idea that if someone different country grew up totally different religion, never even heard of whatever in this version of the afterlife is the right religion, and that they like this innocent doctor who saved thousands of lives goes to hell because they didn't pick right.
Yeah.
Or they didn't get born in the right place to pick right. I have to believe that if there is something, that it is kind of like all paths are different and all paths lead the same place. And
well, I've talked about this before on some podcasts we were doing, but all, you know, and this is I guess one off. So if there's a good place person that just found this, I grew up in a, you know, Christian and Muslim split home for a good chunk of my youth, and learning about those, and then from that having the
deeply interesting
freedom from my, you know, mom to learn about whatever I wanted to when it came to religion, and always, you know,
that's incredible.
Yeah, which I'm very grateful
sure that makes a world of difference. That's not the experience for most people that grow up religious, especially the Americanized Midwestern branches of Christianity, and more just the branches of people more than the branches of Christianity that are that don't understand the Muslim faith, and don't understand how, you know, up to a certain page, it's kind of the same thing. And really, to the last page, it's mostly the same thing.
And that's the thing I was going to say is, even if you go back to Eastern religions or Greek mythology and stuff like that, it's all the same shit up until a certain point. It's all the same myths, same stories, just with different names and different big floaty guys in the sky telling it to happen. But it's all the exact same stuff, you know? So I like to think that most major religions are the exact same religion. They just slap a different
even getting
label
to the point where I don't even think any of the religious texts really have anything to do with any of that.
They were written by dudes.
It's just all people,
except for the Mormon plates. They found those in the ground.
I'm not totally discounting it, but it's all people like feeling and hypothesizing and walking their journey of feeling whole with the universe and what comes before and after you're alive in it, you know? I think it's possible that things have changed, or that all of them have a piece of the right thing.
I remember I got in trouble in youth church when I was a kid, because I was watching this Banned from the Bible, which was a special I did on History Channel, where they talked about the books that didn't make it in and why they didn't make it in. Some of which were written by the same people who had books in the Bible, and I brought up some of those in church, and I got in trouble. And my mom chewed out the lady and was like, "Why? Don't be mad because he's smarter than you, you dumb." You know, he learned about it.
It's
maybe
so cool that you had a cool, smart mom.
Yeah,
that,
I do have a cool, smart mom.
So sure of her religion, but also is so sure of the world around her as well.
You know, so I was very grateful for that, because that allowed me to kind of see, you know, what. Basically, I kind of put weight in what I feel like I should be putting weight and energy into. And there's a lot of stuff in the Bible I'm like, that's fucking stupid.
Well, what the is up with the growing up religious and really being discouraged to ask certain big questions?
Yeah.
What's up with that? Because I don't know. Putting a wall up to questions like that, it absolutely had a hand in leading me away from being interested in it. I feel like if you're met by well, that's a really interesting question, and you know what? I don't know the answer, but let's talk about that for an hour, you know? I don't know. Why is it that you would be like, well, there are these other books of the Bible or other historical texts from the same times that say this and this and this, that for them not to be like, no, stop, alert,
I know.
Stop.
They were like, well, that's not in the Bible,
happening.
so it's not true. And I was like, but it was written by the same guy who wrote the book you're talking about right now. And she was like, nope, don't talk about that.
Well, let's get back to that episode of The Good Place for just a second and wrap this up. This was fun. I had fun chatting with you. It's always fun. I can just, man, if we get to do this podcast, it will be a lot of fun, and it will be trying.
Yeah.
Because we are going to get into some heavy conversations.
We are.
And I think it will make for some great podcasting, but I also think it might make for some, okay, bye.
Now, I think it could get a little tense, but I think you and I also are always very respectful of each other where we should be.
I have so much love and respect for you and what you believe and feel, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get heated and be kind of a hard ass about my own opinion when we're talking about them. Yeah.
And I will
Let's
meet you with grace and love, just as God
place,
meets me
place.
every day.
In the beginning of the episode, I mentioned that I feel like we're both pretty much no problem going to the bad place. I like to think we've gained a couple good place points over the last hour. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Have we gained them over the last hour?
I don't know. We sure tried.
We only talked about how attractive the men were, and does that get us in the good place? Guess depends on which book we're reading.
I think so. Mm-hmm. So what should we talk about first? Who goes to the good place or who goes to the bad place?
Let's talk bad place first.
Yeah, it's a little tough for me.
Yeah, I'd like to go.
Go ahead.
I think Timothy Oliphant's going to the bad place because first of all, that ass can't be legal, and I didn't see his butt, but I'm sure it's cute. But for poking holes in the plan, he almost f***ed it all up. What if they didn't have good answers?
Well, yeah, but he didn't do anything really actively bad. He just had a curious mind about the situation.
Yeah, curiosity killed the cat.
I don't think it's fair to say. I don't think it's fair to say that Timothy Oliphant goes to the bad place when it wasn't really Timothy Oliphant.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. Timothy Oliphant.
There you go. That's important. He did the quotation.
Let me change.
I know they couldn't see it, but I think they felt it. I have trouble because part of me wants to give it to Sean, obviously, but he would like that too much. And the end of the episode shows some change in him. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm gonna give the bad place to Bad Janet.
Nice.
For using her last moments to fart. Mm-hmm. Poor choice of last moment. What about good place? Who earned their spot in the good place this week?
To me, it's Chidi. Chidi has showed that he's completed the cycle damn near. He's grown. He is the Chidi that he always could be.
For me, it's pretty easily Janet, like our Janet, because she absolutely puts everything on the line to draw this out as long as she can, to put herself to the side and to put all kinds of versions of herself to the side, which I'm sure she at least feels a little something as all of these other Janets are being turned to marbles and she's going to be one of the next ones. She puts that all aside just for the glimmer of hope that maybe her friends will come up with an idea to save humanity. And I think that puts her in the good place for sure.
Yeah, me too. Good.
Well, we did it.
We did. We talked about the good place.
And I would be excited, very excited, plenty excited to talk a whole lot more about the good place in the future.
I would too.
But that's going to be all up to the people. We've put out 2 of the 4 options, and I think they are both very solid.
Yeah, and I'm excited about the other 2 that we have to talk about.
It's going to be hard for our listeners to pick, but it's going to be really easy to talk about whichever one they do.
You know, it's funny, every time I've been talking to somebody about what we're going to do after Community, when they ask, because we're coming to the end, I tell them the 4 shows, and they're like, every time I say a name of the show, they're like, oh, and it's like, nice. How could you pick? And I'm like, that's why we're not.
That's so cool.
It makes me happy that I think any show I'd be happy to do, and I'd be happy to do it with you, Zach. Or for $500, you can take over
Zach
as co-host.
Right off the podcast.
Yeah, we will get him out of here.
Asterisk must also edit podcast.
Yeah, it's got to be that.
Yeah, so we're going to go back into the community grind. Next week, we'll be talking about advanced safety features. It's the return of the character Subway, who returns as Honda, which will be a fun episode to dive into.
I think this next episode might be the last one that I saw.
Really? There's still, after that one, like 6 episodes left.
Maybe I've seen more, but I know I saw this one, and I don't remember what happened.
So that's the next episode, and in a few more weeks' time, we'll be back with the 3rd edition of America's Next Top Zach and Steven Rewatch podcast. But in the meantime, sound off to us on social media what you think you'll be voting for so far. So far, it's are you Team Bob's Burgers or Team Good Place? I go back and forth.
I'd be happy with either.
I have a foot firmly on both sides. So let us know what you're thinking. Steven,
let's see where our third legs lands.
Let's wrap this thing up. I want to tell everyone, if you like what we do here, you want to join us as we make the leap from community to whatever's next. Patreon's the best place to do it. Patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast gets you all kinds of exclusive content, full exclusive podcasts, early access to this show every week, and a weekly live hangout with me and Steven. So I think it's definitely worth those dollars.
Oh, it's worth pinching those pennies together and tossing them at us. We'll be in the fountain, mouths open, waiting for you.
Where else can the swine find us online?
You know, if you want to roll around in our mud even more, come on over to Twitter and follow us.
Into our swamp.
Follow us over at Can't Disappoint Podcast. Just kidding. Follow us over at You Can't Disapod. We're also on Instagram.
I don't even think you said Twitter.
I did.
Okay.
You
Twitter.
interrupted.
It's Twitter. That's fair.
We're on
That
Twitter under the name @
They should know by now.
You Can't Diss a Pod. We're also on Instagram with the name Can't Disappoint Podcast. Come see pictures of our mud. And if you want to get a little deeper in our mud holes, come on over to Facebook and follow us. Full name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. Share it with your friends, family, grandmas, math, science teachers, priests, altar boys, whatever floats your boat. We'll float them too. And if you want to see our pretty mugs elsewhere than the Patreon, you can come check out our YouTube over at the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast, where you'll get the full videos from our roundtables, our specials, and whatever else we put over there.
All right, well, it's been oodles of fun. We'll see you all
Oodles
next week.
and noodles.
I hope you've had a good time. From inside Mindy St. Clair's living room, Black Lives Matter, I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
And we'll see you next week. Bortles!
Bortles!